Hello students, welcome to Notebook. In this lesson and over the next few lessons, we'll be looking at all aspects of life in the Roman Empire, which covered a vast territory and lasted for 1,000 years. The Roman Empire replaced the Roman Republic, which had lasted from 509 BC to 27 BC. The constitution of the Roman Republic was designed to check autocratic rule and introduced a system of checks and balances. In this system, each administrative position was at least held by two people. The political organization was formed by the collective and annual magistracies overseen by the Senate. There were elections every year, but power remained within a small number of wealthy and powerful families, or gentes. This tells us that the Roman Republic was oligarchic rather than democratic in nature. The Roman Republic had established control over the entire Mediterranean world. The Roman Empire succeeded the Roman Republic because it was becoming increasingly difficult to cover such a vast expanse of land with republican rule. Civil wars had become frequent. However, the new imperial government still tried to hold on to the features of the old republican constitution. After all, under such a system of administration, Roman civilization had flourished and become a world power. Two powerful empires, the Romans and the Iranians, ruled over most of Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East between the birth of Christ and the early part of the 7th century. The Romans and the Iranians were rivals, and their empires lay next to each other, separated by a narrow strip of land that ran along the Euphrates River. The heart of the Roman Empire was the Mediterranean Sea. Rome ruled over the Mediterranean and all areas around that sea in both directions, north and south. The boundaries of the Roman Empire were formed by two great rivers, the Rhine and the Danube in the north, and by the huge Sahara Desert in the south. Their rival, the Iranians, controlled the whole area south of the Caspian Sea down to eastern Arabia and parts of Afghanistan as well. The Roman Empire is usually divided into two phases: the early period and the late period, or antiquity, divided by the 3rd century. The early period continues till the major part of the 3rd century. The late period comes after that. The Roman Empire was culturally more diverse and vibrant compared to the Iranians, who had a more homogeneous society, ruled first by the Parthians and later by the Sasanians. The Roman Empire was marked by a wide range of territories and cultures, bound by a common government. Greek and Latin were the languages of administration. Greek was used by the upper classes of the eastern part of the empire, and Latin was used by the upper classes of the west. People living in other parts of the empire spoke different languages, though they were all subjects of the Roman emperor. The Roman Empire's territories had expanded up to Britain and Germany under the rule of the statesman and military general Julius Caesar. However, he was murdered by his opponents in 44 BC. His death led to the replacement of the Roman Republic by the Roman Empire. Mark Antony, Lepidus and Julius Caesar's grandnephew or adopted son, Octavian Caesar, organized Julius Caesar's supporters after his death and struggled against the opponents for years. Finally, after 13 years, Octavian Caesar became the emperor of Rome, taking the name of Augustus. Augustus was the first emperor of the principate, which introduced the emperor as the leading citizen of the empire. In reality, the ruler in the Roman emperor was the absolute authority, but he respected the Senate, which had controlled Rome earlier in the days of the Republic. So he tried to continue some of the beliefs and ideals of the Roman Republic headed by the Senate. Besides, the common people highly honored members of the Senate. People with senatorial background represented the aristocracy, came from families of landowners or gents, as we have discussed earlier. Some of them had written Roman histories in Greek and Latin. The subjects of the Roman Empire distrusted and revolted against rulers who were disrespectful to the Senate. One of the special features of the Roman Empire was its paid professional army, where soldiers had to put in at least 25 years of service. The army had grown in size and was 600,000 men strong by the 4th century. They formed a powerful body which often revolted against the emperor or the generals. They demanded better wages and service conditions. The Senate hated and feared the army because they were violent and disrupted the peace of the empire. The historians were influenced by the views of the Senate while writing about the army in the Roman Empire. The rule of Augustus, also called Augustan age, is memorable for establishing peace after years of internal strife and military conquests. He adopted Tiberius as his son before appointing him his successor. This was because succession to the throne was based on family descent. Augustus's rule called the Golden Age because he concentrated on organization and able administration instead of expansion. He built a strong army, appointed able administrators, and promoted arts, literature, sculpture, and architecture. The era of peace lasted for 2 centuries and is known as the Pax Romans or Roman peace. The direct control of the Roman Empire expanded in the subsequent years by acquiring or absorbing dependent kingdoms into Roman provincial territories. Earlier, the Near East was full of these kingdoms, which were clients of Rome. The rulers of these kingdoms supported Rome by supplying their military forces. In exchange of their support, the Roman rulers allowed these kingdoms to exist independently. All these kingdoms disappeared by the early 2nd century. Except for Italy, all the territories of the Roman Empire were organized into provinces and were taxed. In the 2nd century, the Roman Empire stretched from Scotland to the borders of Armenia and from Sahara to the Euphrates and beyond. Administering such a vast area was possible because of rapid urbanization. The great urban centers or the cities of Carthage, Alexandria, Antioch, and others formed the foundation of the imperial system of Rome. The rich upper classes of the provinces helped the Roman state to administer their territories in the provincial countryside and to raise taxes from them. The upper classes of the provinces became more powerful than the senators of Italian descent in the 2nd and 3rd centuries. They were backed by the emperors and formed a new class of administrators and military commanders. The emperor Gallienus excluded senators from the military command during his rule and thus consolidated the power and position of the provincial upper classes. Italy lost its earlier political and economic power and prestige. The new elites came from the urbanized parts of the Mediterranean, like the south of Spain, Africa, and the East. A city in the Roman sense was an urban center with its own magistrates, city council, and a territory containing villages which were under its jurisdiction. The rulers could upgrade the villages and give them the status of cities. Similarly, they could degrade the cities. There were several advantages of living in the cities of Imperial Rome. The cities had better infrastructure and amenities and provided better chances of employment. The cities were the hub of trade and commerce and industrial activities. Various entertainments were arranged in the cities for the welfare of the citizens. Public baths were also an exceptional feature of Roman urban life. The rivals of the Romans, the Iranians, could not introduce public bathing in Iran because of opposition from the clergy. The clergy considered water to be a sacred element and could not think of using it for public bathing. In our next video, we will talk about the crisis of the Roman Empire in the 3rd century and also the general features and advancements of the Roman Empire as a whole. Till then, try to find out about some societies of the world which worship water to this day. Think of the holy water of the Ganges in India, for example, and all the pilgrimages to Varanasi every year. See you soon.